episode 4.2 of the Fit Pro podcast. If you haven't listened to 4.1, I recommend going and doing that. Otherwise, you're going to be very, very lost. Just head back to the previous episode, 4.1, with Radu Antoniu. This is the continuation. Enjoy.
I think that if you're willing to give up, you haven't defined your goal well enough.
I wouldn't want to train with an unfit personal trainer. Like the reason people came to train with me was because I looked how they wanted to look.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter, but if it doesn't matter what industry you're in, unless you don't have the results yourself, I believe that you don't have the authority to preach it.
Absolutely, yeah, I 100% agree. But I think that is not reason. It's not reason enough to not do what you want to do in the fitness space, because even if you start from a point where your physique looks like shit, can we use bad language in this podcast?
Absolutely, go for it.
Okay, yeah. So if your physique looks bad and but you're providing good information, that's fine. That's fine, because if you do that for a year until you build your physique to a more advanced level, then you still have that 1 year of experience behind you. It's not like you're just now learning how to write. You're just now learning how to edit videos, how to talk to the camera. You have that experience behind you, and it's much better to start immediately and build your physique in the meantime, instead of waiting until your physique looks a certain way and only then feeling that you have the right to start to talk about this information. Because if your information is good, it's going to be appreciated by the people that are well educated themselves. Because I knew that even if I was skinny, even if I was not very strong, if any huge authority on fitness came and reviewed my content, they would say, hey, this information is good. And I knew that it was only a matter of time until people started noticing that as well, when my physique catched up with the content, basically.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with, again, there's the business side of things where it's fake it till you make it. That's wrong. But there is nothing wrong with having a vision and a goal and basically jumping out of the plane and building the parachute on the way down. If you've got the passion, people will respect that. And if you've got the value and the quality, people will see it. If you don't, they will also see it. Like the amount of phonies, fakes that you see on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. The ones that are just either trying to make a quick buck or just have they have no reason to be in the space whatsoever. People are smart. We figure it out. So generally the people that are quality stick around and we find them. People like Radu stick around and we find them, and they help people. Now, in terms of helping people, what is your best advice for anyone starting out in the fitness space?
My best advice would be to start and to always improve your content. Always, each post should be better than the last one in terms of how well you present the information, how no matter what goal you have, there is always something that you can do right now to achieve it. This is actually the philosophy of Henry Ford. So Henry Ford, Napoleon Hill, when he wrote the book Think and Grow Rich, he spent a lot of time with America's biggest successes. You know, people like Henry Ford, like Thomas Edison, like Andrew Carnegie, like John D. Rockefeller. So these huge, big successes that everyone knows. and he was studying their lives and their philosophy in life. Why he was trying to figure out why these people achieved such high success in their fields. And one day he asked Henry Ford if there was something in this world that he thought he couldn't do. And Henry Ford replied that no, that he thought that there was literally nothing that he couldn't do. And Napoleon Hill was, of course, struck by this. I mean, how can you say that, right? And so he asked him, how can you say such a thing? And Henry said, because I noticed that every time I set a goal in my life, no matter how big or small it is, how much I know about it, no matter what the goal is, there is always something that I can do right now in order to get me closer to that goal. And he said, I found out that before I get to that I never get to the end of the list of the things I can do right now. Because every time I do the things that I'm able to do at this moment, my skills improve, my knowledge improves, my awareness improves, my connections, my networking improves. And every time more and more things are added to the list, to the list of things I can do. And you never get to the end of that list. And because of that, you will always achieve the goal that you set. So in the fitness industry, no matter what goal you have for yourself, I'm absolutely sure that there is something you can do right now. Maybe it's a piece of content, answering an email, getting on a call with a client. No matter what it is, it's a step. And if you always strive to do better and better things, because that list of things you can do right now always grows, then you will eventually get to the goal. It's impossible not to.
Preach. You're preaching to the choir here, my man, because that book, Think and Grow Rich, was the foundation. I believe it should be the foundation to anybody looking to get into any sort of business or just self-education. There's a saying out there, look, education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune. Now, I feel like we learn more out of school in the real world and through things we want to learn. And on the topic of Napoleon Hill, have you read Outwitting the Devil?
Only half of it.
It's great book.
I'm halfway through it.
To all the listeners out there, Outwitting the Devil was written in 1938. It was thought to be too controversial, so Napoleon Hill's estate actually held on to it until releasing it in 2011. So if you haven't read Think and Grow Rich, go read that first, and then read Outwitting the Devil, and I believe you'll just enjoy it like we do. And in terms of like your mediums, like how do you absorb information? Because everybody absorbs information a little bit differently. I prefer podcasts. I prefer audiobooks. I'm very self-aware in the fact that I've tried the YouTube thing, and I'm not good at editing video, and I'm not good at being on camera. So I feel I'm better on the mic. I like listening to things. How do you learn, Radu? What's your favorite medium?
Good question. I'm actually like you. I'm an audio learner too. I learn best by audio, but the way I learn information is I follow specific people that I know they're very good at what they're doing. I don't watch many YouTube channels. I don't follow many websites. I actually follow specific people. I choose articles based on the author, not the title. I choose videos based on who posts them. I choose podcasts based on the author. I want to make sure that the information that I absorb is well verified. It comes from good sources. And the way I came across these people is I first started with Greg. I know that he was someone that I could trust. Then he pointed his audience to Matt Burkham of Lean Games. Then from Lean Game, I learned about Alan McDonald, then about Alan Aragon. Then I learned about Eric Helms. Then I learned about Brad Schoenfeld. Then Greg Knuckles. Every time I found a new individual in this space that was worth following, he inevitably in his content, in his videos, in his podcasts, he mentioned other names of people that were mentors of his. So where they were getting their information, and then I would go and study those people's materials, and this has been my learning system for the past 2 years, and I found it to be very efficient because I know that these people are the best in their fields and they always stay up to date with the latest research. So if I follow them, it's like I'm staying up to date with the latest research myself, even though I can't understand scientific literature by myself as well as these guys do. And in terms of mediums, I use everything. If these guys write an article, I read that article. If they write a book, I read that book. If they release a podcast, I listen to that podcast. If they post YouTube videos, I'm going to watch those videos. So anywhere I know I can find good information, I'm going to accept that medium. But I never click on unverified information because I feel that, for one, I could be wasting my time because I have no idea who that person is. I have a long list of articles of good articles that I have to read, so I'd much rather read those. And I never click on articles based on their title, even if it's an exciting title like the best way to get abs or something like that.
Because we live in a world today where it's the clickbait titles, where they're just putting catchy titles to get you to read their articles.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a big problem because nowadays it's so hard to differentiate good information from bad information because now the good guys usually use boring titles. If you ever been on bodycomposition.com, so Lyle McDonald's website, I mean, his books are outstanding, but the titles, the protein.
Marketing.
Yeah. Lyle is someone that I respect a lot. I think he's the best nutrition writer I've ever read. But he is a good example of someone who doesn't have a big following because his information is true and boring. Because the truth is boring. It's basics. It's something that is not exciting. It's not 5 ways to get abs in 16 minutes or, those catchy titles that attract the general population.
The quick fix titles.
Yeah.
Like everybody wants abs in 12 days. Sorry, not 12 weeks. And look, we've done a great job here today with sharing some very valuable resources. And just like you said, you only sort of learn from people that have been referred from people you're already learning from. And exactly. It's a great way to keep your information pure, keep your information to a high standard. So I don't think we'd be doing our job properly, Radu, if we didn't direct the listeners to some other resources. Like, what sort of what podcasts are you listening to now that you think the listeners could benefit from?
I recommend the Muscle for Life podcast, hosted by Mike Matthews. That's a great one. I also listened to. I recommend the Kinobody podcast. It's discontinued right now, but you can still find the episodes. Sigma Nutrition, it's a good one. Let me think. Actually, the reason I don't know many titles of podcasts is because I follow these guys, and when they say they share on social media, hey, I've been on X podcast, I go and listen I listened to that specific episode, and I'm guilty of forgetting the names of the podcast and hosts, because I'm interested more in the guests. So I sometimes listen only to one episode from a specific podcast.
Yeah, and I have the same problem, and I mean that's one of the reasons why I started this podcast, is because, look, we follow specific people. We have the ones that we try and stay in their shadow and then try and get out of, but sometimes they go on these podcasts where they're the only interview this podcast will do for the next month. And then you gotta wait. Then there's no point, because I don't know who you are and I don't know what your information is. And where I hope to be different is twice a week you're gonna get an interview with a fitness professional. At least when you come on my channel, you will know that every episode you're gonna get an interview with an inspiring individual. And I think that's where we can sort of build a better network of, okay, I'm going to go on the Fit Pro podcast, and then, hey, hold on, let me just listen next week. There might be somebody else that is very similar to what I'm looking for, or completely different. I mean, I've got people scheduled to be on the podcast that are yoga instructors, and people that are in calisthenics, and people that have started brands, but all in the fitness space. So I think what we're doing here is great. Radu is a great guest, and I think we need to wind down a little bit, because generally I like to keep the podcasts around 20 minutes long, each one, because that's like your average journey of a trip. So look, one of the last questions. I'm not saying it's the last one. There's going to be a few more. But what are some parting words of advice for the listeners, for people out there that are starting on their journey and just need a little bit of a push to say, keep going, and this is going to happen, or this isn't going to happen? Just you run with it, Radu. Otherwise I'll ramble.
I think that if you're willing to give up, you haven't defined your goal well enough. Because if you know what you want to do, you know you have listed many motives for why you want to achieve a certain thing, then motivation is no longer a problem. You have made up your mind that this is what you're going to do, and I actually never understood how some people can quit if they say that they really want to do a certain thing. Actually, I do know why that is to some extent, because we are controlled by our habits. Most of the time, most of our behavior is habitual. We are really not in control of ourselves most of the time, and it's easy to step back. Have to fight those procrastination drives, those thoughts and actions that will keep you in the same place where you are now. A great exercise to do is to take a piece of paper, and at the top of the paper to write your goal, and then to list 100 motives for why you want to achieve that goal. Now some people will say, what, 100? I can probably only list 2 or 3. This is the value of the exercise, because you will list literally everything, and for each one of those motives, you will actually trigger certain images in your mind that will help you better visualize your goal. When you think about your goal, you need to have an image in your mind, because we think in pictures, and we always strive for the picture that we have in our mind. Our behavior follows the image we have of ourselves in our mind. For example, this works even with our physical body. For example, if you reach out your hand to lift a glass of water, you don't consciously think, hey, I'm gonna use my left arm, I'm gonna use my tricep to extend the arm, and then I'm gonna use my forearm to close my fingers and bring the glass to my mouth. No, you just see how you want your hand to move, and then the hand moves automatically. And this is the way I found that you can make yourself do the things that need to be done in order to achieve success. you create the image in your mind, you keep that image there, and after a while, it doesn't happen immediately, after a while, your physical body starts to act in correspondence with that image. It wants to turn that picture into reality. So do that exercise, write 100 motives for why you want to achieve your goal, and then I would recommend a goal card. This is a piece of paper that is laminated, that you literally hold in your pocket all the time, that has your goal written on it. And you read that once or twice a day, 3 times a day, as much as you can, because every time you repeat your goal, you ingrain new images and new habits into your being, into your person. You are basically transforming yourself into the kind of person that does the success achieving activities like his normal behavior. Because I don't know if you know this, Marvin, but the most successful people in any niche are those that are not working. They're just being themselves. Their work is what they do. This is
absolutely.
That is their person. And I was never a fitness guy. I was never one that enjoyed lifting weights, that enjoyed, counting macros and stuff like that. But through auto-suggestion, through constantly thinking about my goal and what I want to achieve, I created myself into Radu the fitness guy. Radu the fitness guy did not exist in the past. But now, what I do is not a discipline, it's what I do. Because the image I have in my mind is also the image I have of myself in my mind is also the goal. So there is no conflict in my mind between what I need to do and what I want to do. Because what I want to do, that image that I see of myself in my mind, my self-image, is the same as the goal. And this is why daily activities, daily tasks, creating content, answering emails, working with people is easy. It's effortless because I'm on autopilot. And I highly recommend you get a goal card as well and read that as many times as you can during the day, because that is how you will transform yourself into the kind of person that does the things that need to be done automatically.
Man, I think you've dropped some ridiculous value on the listeners today. Like, you've actually, if everyone's listening, he's giving you some life-changing advice. we don't get taught to. We do in the loosest form get taught how to set goals. Everyone needs a goal, otherwise they don't know where they're going. But when you come down to the paradigm-shifting activities, the ones that can transform your mindset into the mindset it needs to be to become successful, this stuff is not common knowledge. Okay, he's dropping bombs on you, and you better be listening. Now, unfortunately, we don't have any more time, but the good thing is you can always contact Radu. Now, Radu, what is the best form of contact for the listeners to get a hold of you? And which ones are they?
Probably the best way to reach me these days is to leave a comment on my website, on any post on my website, ThinkEatLift.com, because lately I've been swamped with emails. I currently have 400 unanswered emails in my inbox, and yet again today I don't have time to answer those because I have other things to do. But I do make time to answer the articles because they are public and everyone can benefit from the answers that I share. So if you want to ask me something in person, then go on my website and leave a comment on any post. Other than that, you can find me on my YouTube channel. That's my name, Radu Antoniu, and you can send me an email to support@thinkitlift.com. But I don't promise that I'm going to answer that email very quickly.
Well, you've been listening to Radu Antoniu and Marvin Fayes at the Fit Pro podcast. We'll see you at the next one. Thanks for listening.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to episode 4.2 of the Fit Pro podcast. Listeners, if you enjoyed that episode, please head to www.fitpropodcast.com and leave a review on this episode. It would mean a lot to us. I've already explained how much I enjoy reading the reviews and how much they actually influence the direction of the channel. So this is the people's channel. I listen to my listeners. If you got any sort of constructive criticism, please let me know. Send it to marvinfitpro@gmail.com. Other than that, enjoy the podcast to come, guys. I've got a few lined up that I believe you're all gonna enjoy. I enjoyed doing them, and yeah, as always, peace.